What's up, everybody? Quick wrap up on day number 3, and we went of the Colorado BDR. So if you haven't seen the rest of my videos, today we were talking about the Colorado BDR. Today on day number 3, we went from Buena Vista to Lake City, Colorado. So we are kind of at the back side of the San Juans. If you've never been to Colorado, the San Juans are by far the best mountains in Colorado. So tomorrow should be pretty awesome. And the key for today, I would say, was dust. It was very, very dusty. Nothing too challenging. A lot of dirt roads. So again, Hagerman Pass was probably the most technical thing that we did. And as long as you took your time and you could easily pick your way through, I definitely, so far, would not be afraid to ride a full-size adventure bike on the Colorado BDR. Especially on days like today, because it was just pure dirt roads, a lot of dirt roads. Coming into really cool parts of town, the hardest pass we did today was called Cumberland Pass. That pass was just really rocky, and it was just a battle of trying not to rattle yourself to death. But once you get up, really cool. You're a little over 12,000 feet, really cool views, and then you drop down into the little town of Pitkin where we had lunch. And the backside, actually, if you're going north to south, or if you're going the traditional route, the south to north, you're supposed to ride a BDR. We're going backwards. The climb up Cumberland actually wouldn't be so bad. As you go down and you head towards Buena Vista, it's very, very rocky, and not in like a good way. Like, I like the rocky trails. Like Hagerman Pass was really fun. A lot of big rocks though, and like cool, like technical kind of riding, where today was more, Cumberland was just more a lot of embedded rock, not very tall, right? So imagine riding on like 10 miles, 15 miles of cobblestone streets that aren't perfect cobblestones, right? So you know how it's like that, like rattled my mirror loose. So I kind of had to like hand tighten it and then kind of jimmy rig it up so that it wouldn't fly off. But yeah, so day 3 so far was really good. Pretty mellow day. Very, very dusty when you're riding with 12 other riders. We did have, as you come from Pitkin into Lake City, you kind of get on this really cool 1-lane dirt road that sometimes I'm like, how do they even find these roads? Like, even though I live in Colorado, there's no way I would ever go drive that road. So it's really cool to kind of get back in these areas. And as we were coming down this 1-lane road, and then it kind of dumps into the national forest where there's a lot of people camping, we actually had one rider, this guy Chip, he actually got run off the road and it kind of into the side of the hill, jacked his bike all up. He was okay because luckily he wasn't going very fast. Was able to stop, but the front of his bike kind of hit and it knocked down the tour piece, or like the top of his bike, which sucks. So bummer for Chip, but he's okay, which is more important. And if we can't fix it, we do have a spare bike. So one benefit to having a support van is we actually have a spare bike. So he'll be able to ride regardless. Super cool. Yeah. So with that, pretty mild day as far as like technical ability. If I had to go back and prepare, so I wrote a lot of technical stuff, and I got the Honda CRF 450 RL and wrote a lot of technical trails to prepare for the BDR. And if I had to go back and do it again, that did definitely help, because the technical stuff I'm not really that nervous about. Like the entrance to Hagerman, is a lot of people talk about that, and that didn't really bother me at all. I kind of just like saw my line, took it, and got up, no problems. But I would do a lot more high-speed gravel road practice, because there's a lot of just gravel road, and once you get comfortable on the gravel road and you can kind of hold a decent speed, becomes a lot more fun. You can kind of rip these backcountry roads. Again, always riding within the laws of the road, riding at 80% of your limit, but I would practice those and get really good. So for new riders, because pretty much we're all new, if I had one recommendation so far for the BDR, would be to practice a lot of gravel roads and work on getting your speed up, especially into corners, being able to manage the corners, understanding your bike. The other thing is the BDR has probably been the best thing for my skills on the bigger bike. You know, when you're spending 8+ hours a day on your bike and on dirt all day, you really start to learn your bike. So there's another learning lesson today where I'm really starting to figure out how to maneuver and push the weight of the bike around, you know, throttle blipping it over like little technical rocks or bumps so that I don't pinch flat my front tire. So kind of all these little things build and you learn the more you ride and get comfortable on dirt. And since I'm spending all day on dirt, I'm becoming a lot more comfortable on the bike and hopefully getting a lot better. Still very new and not very good. It does make me want to get the Tiger 900 I got it because it was like off-road capable, it was lighter, and it was kind of to me at the time seemed like a really good blend of off-road capability and road riding. Now riding the BDR and having pretty much 90% of it be on dirt, I want to get something that's far more off-road capable, but I still want the power because I love the power. 100 horsepower is plenty of horsepower for a BDR bike, but I don't want to go like Yamaha Tenere 700, like 60 horsepower, even though it's probably still plenty, right? But I just want something that's like far more, like honestly, KTM 1290 Super Adventure R, like have the power, have the suspension, rip these dirt roads, and just like, because I just want to be able to ride harder, you know. And I feel, here's the thing, I'm not very good at riding, so I'm like, oh, maybe I'm pushing the bike too hard. It's just, if you look at any reviews and you look at the geometry of the bike, the Tiger 900 has more street-oriented geometry than, like, say the Ducati or the Husqvarna or the KTM. And so having that more dirt-oriented geometry is what I want, with like better suspension, like stiffer, harder suspension, so that like when you're coming up Cumberland Pass, you can just you know, as everybody says, just full gas up the pass. All right, anyways, I'm getting a little long-winded. If you made it this far, subscribe, hit the notification bell, tell all your friends, leave a mean comment below, say something mean, because everybody's so nice though. I'm encouraging the trolls. Yeah, if you want to say something mean and I'm terrible, totally fine. I'm ugly, my hair's bad, you don't like my hat, my glasses are weird, whatever, leave your comments below. Tomorrow we're doing the Queen stage, we're doing the high alpine loop up over into Ouray and then over to Telluride, so it should be an awesome day and kind of the last day of the stage, because we're skipping the very end, which is basically just a dirt road to the Four Corners. Been to the Four Corners, I don't need to do that. It's gonna be like 102 degrees out in the desert, so also wouldn't be very fun. So one more day of hard riding and then it's over. Super excited, want to do another BDR. Tomorrow should be awesome. Until next time, stay safe out there. All right, let's talk about section 3, or day 3 for me, on the Colorado BDR, but this is essentially Lake City to Buena Vista. If you haven't seen the other videos on the BDR, we went backwards. BDR is traditionally done south to north. We went north to south. I won't get into why we went the opposite way, but we did. And so today we're going to talk about section 3, and also a caveat, bear with me, because section 3 is I don't want to say a boring day, because any day on the BDR is a good day, but it is not as challenging as some of the other days were. And today was a lot of fast, flowy roads. And I included a lot of clips of the route because I want you, if you're interested in doing a BDR, and if you're new, if you go and watch a lot of BDR videos, there's a lot of content of like the hardest sections, because those are the most exciting portions. And it's like, look at me riding this awesome stuff. If you're watching this video to watch me ride, I don't know why you're watching it. I'm not a very good rider. I'm new to this whole thing, and so this is my first BDR, so you shouldn't be watching it for that. But if I can provide you one thing for your most valuable thing in this world, which is your time, is at least what the route is like, and give you a lot of clips of the route along the way, that you can get an accurate idea of the entire route and not just the challenging sections. And so that you're not, if you're on the fence because you don't think you're good enough, I think today is one of those sections where for most riders, I think if you're new and you're dedicated to the sport and you want to ride, today would probably be a really good section to do if you have the time to do one section, or a section that you should really look forward to kind of get your feet wet. So with that, let's get into section 3, going from Buena Vista to Lake City. So starting on the route leaving Buena Vista is actually a lot of highway miles. So you actually climb up Cottonwood Pass on the road. So no dirt for quite a while. Actually, you're going to do quite a ways up Cottonwood Pass. It is a basic 2-lane highway, nothing super technical. So I didn't include a lot of clips here other than the base, which is good. And then of course the top of Cottonwood Pass, because it's an amazing view. And ironically, I've never driven a car over Cottonwood Pass. So it was super cool to go up there and kind of get the scenery overlooking. You're essentially on top of the Collegiate Peaks. So in Colorado, you have this thing, you have different sections of mountains. This is the Collegiate Peaks. There's a lot, when you're in the town of Buena Vista, there are a lot of 14ers or 14,000 foot peaks, all right next to each other, in really cool spot. And so then you're gonna wind basically Cottonwood Pass, or the highway, I don't remember the name of the highway, I'll put it here. You're gonna wind the highway all the way down. We did stop at the bottom. There was like an outhouse, somebody had to use the bathroom, so we stopped at the bottom. This isn't actually part of the route, but we stopped there at the bottom. But it's just always cool, it makes it more interesting. One thing to know is as you're heading towards the town of Tin Cup, we actually did a bypass. So the traditional route kind of goes here, you can see it kind of hooks a left and goes around. We went way around by the reservoir and we cut out the creek crossing. I think this is important. So as of August 8th, 2024, that creek crossing has really been dug out by a lot of side-by-sides, and basically we heard reports of a lot of bikes getting drowned. So you go into it and it's way too deep. You basically waterlog your bike, ruin your trip. So we bypassed it. So we went around. And actually, and on the next day, we even heard the same story from other guys that were on the San Juan portion of the trip, or section 2, and they were talking about the same thing and asking us if we went through it. So we bypassed it. I would recommend taking the bypass. Not worth going through a creek crossing if it's going to ruin your bike and ruin your day. And also this dirt road all the way up to this cool town of Tin Cup here is a great road, and it was fast and fun and flowy. And Tin Cup was really unique because it is like an old mining town where people have like kind of restored the little cabins or whatnot. Now they're living there, and it's kind of like a UTV, ATV mecca. Now I will say that as we're going up Cumberland Pass, which is the first kind of dirt road pass, probably my least favorite pass of the day and of the trip so far, and you heard me mention that in the intro and kind of my wrap up after the day of riding. But it's just a matter of fighting attrition of vibration. So it is just a lot of sharp embedded rock. So it's not loose, but it's just a lot of embedded rock, and it just kind of vibrates you to death. You can see that like right about here, it basically vibrates my mirror loose, and you can start seeing it come loose here, and I have to like hand tighten it. And these even have like, you know, the nuts on them have Loctite, the whole deal for these. These are the double take mirrors that you can move in and out, and are really tough. But it is like this way the whole way up. It is just very, very rough. So it's kind of weird because it's one of those things where it's like you want to carry enough speed to kind of smooth the trail out, but you don't want to carry too much speed to where basically you're bottoming out or hitting those hard edges too hard, you know, like too hard and causing flats. But it's pretty much from the time you leave Tin Cup all the way to the top of the pass, it is like this. It is pretty much relentless. I actually found that kind of riding on the side, so like the far right or the far left of the trail, was much better. It seemed to kind of smooth the trail out quite a bit, in that like there were these just kind of side lanes where it wasn't as rough. Of course, as you get to the top, as you can see here, like it's kind of like imminent death on one side. So the cliff really drops off, so where it's smooth. I was kind of taking the rougher line because I just kind of wanted to ride more to the other side. Like, I don't want imminent death. Do you? I don't think so. But yeah, again, so this pass, not very challenging. It's just a lot of vibration all the way up, basically. Other than that, it was pretty fun. I mean, I think I'm holding like 25 to 30 miles an hour the way up, so it's not terribly slow, but it's just kind of like getting vibrated to death. And then actually, as you roll to the top of the pass, as you can see here, it is actually a really kind of big flat top area. So there's plenty of places to park, enjoy the view, kind of look over either side of the valley. There will likely be a lot of side-by-sides there, both Tin Cup and then the town on the other side of Cumberland Pass, which is Picken. Very, very popular for side-by-sides and ATVs. So you will see a lot of other traffic. We even saw I think we even passed a couple trucks coming up that pass, but it's pretty cool. You get a little bit over 12,000 feet, I believe, as you get up here. Really cool views. We actually hung out for a little bit. One thing of note also is that when you're at altitude, so if you don't live at altitude, one thing to know is like it is not hot, so it might be a nice cool 60 degrees, 65 degrees, but the sun is way more intense. So make sure you wear sunscreen. I end up packing a little bit of extra sunscreen in my bag and kind of reapplying because it's coming off of my helmet and whatnot. But the sun is far more intense at altitude, so it may not feel like it, but you definitely will get burnt. So I definitely would carry a lot of sunscreen. And then as you can see on the way down, very similar. Kind of more of that, just a lot of embedded rock. I didn't think it was quite as bad. The very top of the pass, as you could see a couple minutes ago, is like it's a little rocky, more rocky at the very exit as you're heading out towards Pitkin, but after that it kind of smoothed out. It wasn't as much embedded rock as the Tin Cup side. And here you can see all the traffic. This is just some of the traffic that we passed, but we end up passing a lot of traffic. This here I included because it's a unique story. You can see two guys. One guy's name is Actual Guy, and then another guy, Florian. I was keeping my distance so that I didn't get dusted, but they wanted to go faster. They decided to pass me, and they ended up wrecking in some of this section here. It was a little bit more loose gravel, so it kind of became a joke. It's like, see what happens when you pass old Clint? Like, you end up wrecking. So I included it here. They ended up kind of like just sliding out in the loose because it was just kind of, this section was a little bit more loose. And then as you can see here, it got actually really kind of rocky and loose, and then it maintained this for a little bit actually. So the embedded rock kind of went away and it went to more kind of loose rock. Then as you roll into the town of Pitkin, cool little town. This one's a little bit different from Tin Cup as it's a lot more modern buildings, dirt road in and out, very popular for side-by-sides and ATVs around this area. So you'll see a lot of them cruising around on the road. So definitely keep an eye on that. We ate at this little food truck, like this little bar and grill area. It was pretty good actually for being back in the middle of nowhere. And they had a cool shaded tent, which was really nice and kind of made for a nice experience. But we ended up stopping in Pitkin for lunch and hanging out for about an hour. And it was a great spot. Yeah, the Silver Plume Grill is where we ate. It was good. I think I had like a chicken sandwich or something. It was good. I enjoyed it. No complaints. Cool little town. Then when you roll out of Pitkin, it is basically like this from here all the way to Lake City. And it just seemed like it was really long, this section. So you feel you come over Cumberland and then you're, you know, every corner I went around, I was like, oh, we got to be getting close to Lake City. We got to be getting close to Lake City. But essentially you're going to go from Pitkin on this dirt road all the way over to US 50, which kind of cuts between Gunnison and up over Monarch Pass. And you're going to essentially kind of cut around Monarch Pass. So Monarch Pass is like one of the big high paved mountain passes in Colorado that would take you into Gunnison, up into Crested Butte, if you're familiar with those towns. But here you kind of skirt it in the lower mountain range and you head over towards 50. This seemed to take a lot longer than what it was. And again, it was all about fighting the dust that day. All day, it was just a matter of like trying to find the right distance to keep the rider in front of me so you're not eating dust all day. So here's Highway 50. If you go right, you'd go to Gunnison. If you go left, it would eventually take you up and over Monarch Pass. But you're not on the highway for very long. You're on the highway for maybe a mile or two before you're back on the dirt. And again, as you can see here on this stretch, it is just like endless flat, loose over hard gravel. So I think I saw a comment on one of my other videos, which was a guy that was talking about he was new to riding and he appreciated the videos. So thank you for that. I appreciate the comment. And he was riding a KTM 1290 Super Adventure R. I think that bike would be absolutely amazing on this day, especially on this long section from Pitkin to Lake City. It is like this. It is basically big, wide open, no traffic. Essentially when we were there was no traffic, fast, loose over hard dirt roads. So again, to reiterate, so far in the 3 days of doing the BDR, you know, getting more comfortable on these big, fast, loose dirt roads is really important. I think with any bike, you need to get comfortable with how it feels because it is going to, it's going to move a lot. Like it's almost like turbulence on an airplane, right? Like when you get on a plane, if you don't fly a lot, like the turbulence can be a bit scary, but it's just part of the process. Like the plane is built for it. It's meant to handle it. It's going to be okay. And riding on these big, loose kind of fast gravel roads, like you're going to get a lot of gravel turbulence, right? Like the bike is going to shift and move and it feels like it's going to come out from under you, but it wants to stay upright. It knows what it's doing. Again, as long as you're riding within 80% of your limits and riding within the rules of the road, you should be okay. And so like a matter of getting comfortable with that. Being that this is the third day in a row where we had a lot of just fast, slow dirt roads, not slow, fast, loose over hard dirt roads, I was becoming a lot more comfortable, just really kind of getting more connected with the bike. So again, because I have to find things to talk about because this video is just, you know, it's a lot of the same as you can see. I would practice a lot. If you have any dirt roads near you that are basically hard packed with a lot of loose gravel over the top, go ride the crap out of those things so that you just get really good, like holding your speed and kind of keeping the pace up, because it will just it'll be so enjoyable. You'll get out here and you'll just rip and you'll have a blast. As we kind of continued on the, now what would be, I guess, the southwest side of Highway 50, it did kind of become like more of a like a one-lane style road heading up over towards the Gunnison National Forest, and a little bit more rocky, a little bit more technical, but still pretty fast. And actually we did come up across a moose, which was cool, and everybody stopped. So if you're not familiar with moose are deadly creatures. Like they will charge you, they will stomp you, they can be very aggressive. This one, we tried to honk at her to scare her away. The guys leading the trip say they see her here every time we go by, and she kind of just seems to live in this marsh, but they love marshy conditions and they will charge you. So do not try to get close to them to take photos. They're actually very dangerous. So as you can see, we like honked at her, she didn't move, and then we slowly creeped by to see what she was going to do, and she kind of cruised away, didn't have any problems. This road here is one of those roads where I'm like, I would never find this road. Like, what was this road built for? You're kind of up high and you're coming down into this really cool valley before you get over towards the National Forest, where there's like a lot of campgrounds and stuff, and just like really cool views. Small one-lane dirt road, just like super cool conditions. It's kind of one of those awe moments, like, oh, what do we, like, who built this? Like, and how did they find this route? You know, when they're scouting this, how did they find this? Here in this section, you can tell we finally got a little bit more rock in the road, so it made it for a little bit more interesting, a little bit more fun. But it didn't last very long. This section was pretty short and kind of similar to the Cumberland Pass area, where it's like a lot of embedded rock. Although here it didn't seem like as sharp-edged and square-edged as the Cumberland Pass. They were a lot more rounded, so a little bit more fun. And then it just kind of continues. You're on just kind of this narrow one-lane road. And I'm not sure where we turned in at, like, because you just feel so lost. You know, you're on these backcountry roads, you've never ridden it, and you don't know where you are. And again, for me on this ride, because it was 150 miles, 160 miles, I just felt like every time I came around a corner, we were going to get to Lake City. Like, oh, we're getting close, we're getting close. And Lake City is one of those towns where you have to be very intentional to get to. There's kind of like one highway in, one highway out. And so I had never been there. Again, another town in Colorado I had never been to. So I didn't really know when we were close, but I'm like, we got to be getting close. It just feels like you're getting closer and closer to town, but you're still a ways out. And here we're probably, from this point, we're probably a good hour and a half out still from this point, kind of coming down this small hill, and you can see we passed some other ADV riders, and then it kind of goes from this fast, that small one-lane little rougher road into this fast road. This area was actually super cool just because it feels like you're in a canyon. If you've been to the western slope of Colorado, there's a national park called the Black Canyon of the Gunnison. Kind of felt like a mini version of that, if you've ever been there. If you haven't and you're coming to Colorado and you have the time, a lot of people will say it's their favorite national park in Colorado, which is pretty hard to say because Rocky Mountain National Park is really good. I mean, the mountains are amazing, but it's just really cool, and not a lot of people talk about it, but you just have these cool canyon walls. And again, I was like, why was this road built here? Like, how did the guys find this route and kind of build this out? Maybe I should go back and watch the Colorado BDR documentary and figure out how they found this road. But you fall, again, it just like amazing scenery. I was staying back to help fight the dust and actually just be able to enjoy the ride a little bit. But again, we're just back on smooth, flat, loose over hard road. So again, as I talked about in the intro to the route description, is like, bear with me because it's just a lot of the same. The scenery definitely changed along the way, but as far as like the riding conditions go, With the exception of Cumberland Pass, it is pretty much flat, loose over hard gravel roads all day. And you're going to be on the bike for 6-7 hours, and it is going to be like this. As you get into the national forest and where like all the campgrounds and stuff are, it does become a narrow 1-lane road. Be careful of traffic. There are a lot of people back there. We did have an issue where a truck ran one of our guys off the road and kind of pushed him into the side and ended up jacking his bike up, as I mentioned in the kind of wrap up to this video. So definitely watch your speed through here, because if you come around a corner, you're likely to encounter a car and there's not a lot of room. So just definitely be prepared. I did have the advantage that I was riding with 12 other guys and I was like in the middle. So there's like 6 or 7 guys in front of me, which definitely helps, you know, because then they're kind of looking for motorcycles. But if you're out there by yourself or riding with 1 or 2 guys, definitely watch, you know, just, they can't see you, right? Like when you're riding a motorcycle, assume they're out there to kill you, because on this road, they likely are. What was also cool is it kind of turned into this like kind of cool shelf road. It looks like you climb really high, but you don't really climb up that much in this section. But it's just a really cool shelf road with some really cool views, a little bit of rocks, but again, mostly like 90% hard pack with loose over hard. I think Chip, who's done most of the BDRs, I think there's like 1 or 2 BDRs he hasn't done. He's like, well, if you don't enjoy gravel roads, basically hard pack road with loose gravel, you need to find another sport. So I think, again, if I could go back and practice anything, it would be getting really comfortable on these fast, loose gravel roads. I may sound like a broken record, but if you're new and you want to do a BDR, I think that would probably be the #1 thing I would practice. Then you hit the kind of main highway that runs in and out of Lake City, which is kind of a cool pass, and you have these, it's just kind of a fun pavement section. So as dusty as it was that day, it was nice to like open the visor, get some fresh air in there. I have like 8 pounds of dust in my sinuses from the day. Like you're just constantly fighting dust. And then you roll into the little town of Lake City and you're at elevation again. So it shouldn't be too hot. You know, I think in the valley where I live, it was like 100 degrees, but up in Lake City, it was like 75, 78 degrees. So the weather should be pleasant as long as you're not getting caught by a rainstorm. And that's where we stayed for the day before we decided, the night, before we then decided to head up and over section 2 of the San Juans, which is probably the most challenging section of the day. And I'll give you a lot of feedback on that one. So definitely stick around for that video. If you've made it this far, definitely subscribe, hit the like button if you liked the video. If you hated the video, if you hate my hat, my glasses, you think I'm ugly, or you just don't like the video in general, leave a comment below. Tell me why it was terrible. Subscribe, tell your friends, all that good stuff, all that YouTube stuff. It just helps the channel. And hopefully I'm helping you as a new writer. So until then, stay safe out there.